Hey, uh, it is July the 26th, 2018. Appreciate y'all for stopping by. What we're going to do here today on this video, as you could probably imagine, we're going to go over another statement, right, out of the witness statements, of which there are probably hundreds, right? We're going to see the most significant ones. We've been going over especially recently. We've been going over the statements. I just got a new batch of statements that I'm to look over. I've read a number of statements that I haven't gone over with y'all at all, and there's some that I've, that have gotten lost in the mix. This would be one of those that I've had for a while that's gotten lost in the mix. Right, this particular statement, and the name is redacted, but stands to reason that the particular statement in which I'm reading right now is from a young man by the name of Anthony Borges, something like that. You might know who I'm talking about. That's the young boy who gets regarded as a hero by most, coming from the government media. They call him a hero. And the thing is, I want to take this moment out to basically agree. Probably, yeah. Probably he is a hero. All right. It stands to reason. And the thing is, I read a statement and I found it very significant. There's parts of it that are very important. All right. Parts of it are my favorite. They're my favorite part of all the witness statements. Altogether, my top favorite moment is actually in this statement. And we're going to get to it. Basically, we're just going to read through. We're going to skip past the first parts where he's saying, I'm a detective, you heard? And Anthony's like, yeah, I understand you're a detective. All right, so here's where the statement starts. Mind you, this is Detective Galindez sitting there with Anthony Borges, and there's a witness, Sergeant Alyssa Galindez. I guess that would be Detective Galindez. All right, it's a lady. She says, okay, do you swear, it's right here at the top if you want to follow along. She says, do you swear that you're going to say what everything you're going to say will be the truth and only the truth? To which Anthony says, I swear. So we're going to dive into it. All right. The next sentence from the detective is, okay, you know the difference between a lie and the truth, right? Because I've been asking young kids that. They want to make sure that they know right from wrong and they don't know what perjury is. All right. So Anthony, he says yes. The detective says, what's the difference? And Anthony's kind of confused. So he says, the difference between what? And so the detective says, the difference between a lie and the truth. And so this is my favorite part, you guys. I want to dwell upon this part because it's my favorite. And I believe it's profound. And I believe, it's going to be one of the most profound statements made in this whole situation. Right? The detective says, what's the difference between a lie and the truth? To which Anthony says, yes, if you lie, everything will turn out bad. Well, that's an interesting answer, isn't it? Right? The detective says, mm-hmm. And then Anthony says, if you speak the truth, everything will be fine. All right, so I wanted to just stop there. Now, if you had heard Anthony speaking before, you'd already gotten that kind of vibe from him. He's kind of an old soul. He's kind of a deep person. All right. So when a detective asks if he knows between a lie and the truth, first of all, he's in high school. It's like, that's kind of pathetic that you'd have to ask such a grown child, I guess, if they know between the lie and the truth. And he told you everything you need to know. All right? If you lie, everything will turn out bad. And that's what's happening, isn't it? If you speak the truth, everything will be fine. And that's what's happening, isn't it? All right? So I found that to be very significant. And of course, we're going to read a little bit more into the statement just to see the stuff that, it don't make sense. Like I said, it's not hardly significant. And in that there's many, many, many witnesses that basically don't understand how much their narrative strays from the official narrative. All right, so just to continue, the Detective Galindez, says, okay, I'm going to bring you back to the time of the occurrence and the reason why you're here in the hospital. Do you remember the date? Anthony says, I arrive on the 14th of February, which would be Valentine's Day. The detective says, okay, where did this happen? And Anthony says it happened on the third floor. So he's coaching, like he's thinking coherently. He knows what happens. He knows where he came from. He knows why he's there in the hospital. The detective says, okay. And Anthony says the freshman, he's about to say the freshman building. And she says, okay, and where were you? Anthony says, huh? The detective again says, where were you? Anthony says, we were in the classroom when the alarm sounded and everyone came out. But we heard gunshots downstairs and everyone started running. And we heard gunshots here and there. Let's just go ahead and stop on that one. Why don't we? All right. First of all, I would like to mention, if you saw a statement from a teacher or if you know anything about being a teacher at all, you might have heard of fire drills. Right? And I want to stop and talk about that because you might have heard of fire drills. Schools have them. Schools have fire drills. See, boy, he's talking about a fire drill going off. All right. Thing is about a fire drill is what maybe some people don't know. Teachers tend to know. Definitely one teacher in here knew. Is that if you have a fire drill, you also have safe words. All right. Period. Because why? Because safety. Safety first. That's why. That's why you have fire drills. That's why you have code words, so that you know what's going on. So that you definitely know what's going on. So the safe words were not given out during this particular fire drill, and yet and still teachers allow their students to pour out the classrooms. All right, that's a deadly mistake. That's a deadly mistake that they made. All right, you shouldn't let your kids pour out of the classrooms if you don't hear the safe word, and they did not hear that safe word. All right, but then you'll also notice that the fire alarm went off first, and then subsequently, Anthony and his people around him started hearing gunshots. This would be a perfect situation, actually, and we're about to dive right into it because they're about to say more about it. But it'd be a perfect situation of testing out whether or not you would hear gunshots on the first floor from the third floor. You probably would, more than likely. All right. But Anthony's saying that the alarm went off, the fire alarm went off before the gunshots. So that doesn't make any sense because the gunshots were clearly going off well before the fire alarm went off. All right. Was Anthony and the rest of his classmates completely unable to hear the gunshots coming from the first floor? Was that what happened? Because if that is what happened, go ahead and test that out. Except, no, they don't want to test that out. They want to tear the building down. See, they're not trying to scientifically come to no kind of conclusion as to when people on the third floor would start to hear gunshots. They don't want to know that. So the statement goes further. All right. The detective says, and were you in the classroom? To which, it gets kind of confusing because Anthony says, no, everyone was in the hallway. And so the detective says, okay, but when the alarm first sounded, were you in the classroom? Which would make sense. It would make sense that y'all were all in the classroom. To which Anthony says, no, we were, but he was cut off. He says, the detective says, you were in the hallway. Okay, so you said first the alarm rang and then you heard gunshots. It's a very significant question. To which he says, uh-huh. And then the question is, and were they coming from the same floor, the third floor? Anthony says, no, it was coming from the second floor. Now, whether or not the shots were coming from the second floor is hard to tell. When big old AK or AR shots are going off below you, it's hard to tell exactly where they are below you. Or it could have been the second floor, could have been the first floor. So the detective says, okay. And then Anthony says, well, you could hear him downstairs. And the detective says, okay, and what happened? Where did you run to? Anthony says, I ran to the right. The question is, okay. And he says, because the guy was here by the door to the stairs. I was in front, and he was behind me and shot me in the leg. The detective says, you said the guy And do you know him? Anthony says, no, I don't know him. All right, so Anthony does not know who is shooting up everybody at all. And if it was Nick Cruz, I don't think he knows Nick Cruz. All right, so the detective says, you've never seen him? Then Anthony says, I've never seen him. Seen who? You know, that's the detective ain't exactly the sharpest knife in the shed or in the drawer. Says you never seen him, and Anthony says I've never seen him. All right, well, you know, that's where you ask, was the guy wearing a mask? Did you see his face or anything like that? The detective is kind of slacking, so says, okay, can you describe what he looked like? Well, I guess she did say, you know, did you see him? To which Anthony says, yes, he had a green shirt, which is another red flag right there, because Nick Cruz wasn't supposed to have a green shirt on. He's supposed to have a red shirt on, an ROTC shirt. All right, so now he has a green shirt and a vest and a firearm. Here's an important question. Do you know his nationality? To which Anthony says, no. You know what I'm saying? And you might as well ask him, do you know the skin color of the person? To which Anthony will probably tell you no. Not at all. He doesn't know even the skin tone, probably, of this guy. Or maybe he knows that, but he knows hardly anything else. Right? So the detective says, no, you didn't get to see his face. And he said, no, didn't get to see his face. He must have been wearing a mask or something. The detective says, okay, you said he was near the stairs? And Anthony says, uh-huh. He says, okay, what did you do? And then he says, I ran. That seems reasonable. So the detective says, okay, you ran, and then you said he shot you, or did he shoot you on the leg? Okay, and then what happened? He said, I stayed there. I started to move over here, and it kept shooting at me. And I was still almost dead. I'm not sure what that means, but I guess I know what it means. The detective says, uh-huh. And so Anthony says he walking and shooting at the people that were that way. I saw a door where there's students. I closed it and blocked it, which is something that, you know, you've already heard before. Then Anthony got in front of the door, blocked it with his dying body, or at least his shot up body, in order to protect the other students, right? The detective says, uh-huh. And then Anthony says, that was all. Detective says, okay, you went in. How far away would you say he was from you? The answer is, I was here and he was like this. Detective says, near? And he says, yes. The detective says, like in feet, like 5 feet? How many feet would you say? He said 5 or 6. So there you go. And you can see Anthony Burgess up in the animation. You probably see it where the shooter walks right by a guy and doesn't kill him. That'd probably be Anthony Burgess, more likely. He says he was 5 or 6 feet away from the shooter. All right, if you were 5 or 6 feet away from somebody without a mask, you probably remember him right. So typically, obviously, he has a mask on. He's 5 or 6 feet away. Shooter could easily fill him with holes. Here's the thing. Shooter can shoot him 2 or 3 more times just for the hell of it and doesn't. Isn't that interesting? Doesn't. All right, so the detective says, okay, he was near, and the detective then says, and you said you closed the classroom door. Anthony says, uh-huh. And the detective says, were you able to inside the room, I guess, to get inside the room? Anthony says, no. So the detective, you know, being a little bit slow, says, so you closed the door and blocked him from going in. And Anthony says, uh-huh. So the detective says, okay, did he pass in front of you? Yes. Or 5, 6 feet away. He's already telling you. The detective says, okay. Anthony says, when he passed in front of me, I just looked at him, and he shot at the back door, and I saw 2 dead people. The detective says, okay. And then what did he do? Anthony says he left. He went downstairs. All right, through the stairs he came up, or different ones is the question. And as you know from that awesome animation, he went down the opposite end. So he went down different stairs. Anthony answers he went down different ones. So the detective says, okay, so he ran from one side to the other. What did he do? And Anthony says he went downstairs. I heard that the police was coming, and I heard screams coming from below and all that. And so the detective says, if you remember how long would you say he was where you were on the third floor? Now, in traumatic situations, I'm not, we're going to get into it in a second. In traumatic situations, you might not understand how fast or slow time is going. All right, especially if you get shot up, you might not understand how long that period of time is that you're laying there. All right, and I want to get that straight. But that being said, Anthony's answer is about 20 minutes. I repeat, about 20 minutes. He was there long. 20 minutes. All right? Maybe 5 minutes. Maybe 5 minutes seem like 20 minutes to Anthony. All right? That's the only way, you know what I'm saying, in which this is even possible. Anthony said 20 minutes. All right? He might have been mistaken. The detective said, then you heard the police, and Anthony said, and he said, you didn't see anything else? He said, I didn't see anything else. The detective said, okay, and then what happened? Do you remember when the police arrived? And I said, yes. The SWAT took me out, blah, blah, blah. Question is, and he said, I was brought to the hospital. And he says, okay, and that was all. And then he's asking, how many times got shot and stuff. They talk about how many times got shot and basically end up the conversation right there. All right, so, all sort of indiscrepancies, just like you would imagine, just like you would expect. Of course, he's wearing the wrong clothes, the shooter. Shooter's wearing the wrong clothes. And of course, you don't see his face because nobody see his face. There's surveillance camera footage with Nick Cruz and his face, and people recognize him as being there on campus. And there's also surveillance footage with a guy in a mask on, all right? So it stands to reason that there'll be surveillance footage of Nick putting on a mask, wouldn't it? Right? And all sort of things. He wasn't wearing the right clothes, this and that. Shots were coming from here and there for some reason. All right? I guess Nick has just really long arms. All right? He's shooting with both his arms. I don't know how he's doing it. Stuff like this. The alarm goes off before the fire, before shots are fired. All sort of stuff, man. All right? The whole thing is, the whole statement is very much going against the official narrative. And it's not the only one. In fact, most of them go against the official narrative. All right, so I just wanted to point that out, and we've been pointing that out. It's like I'm not stating anything that's any more than obvious. All right? And just to leave out, it's like a final thought, we've been here a while. Been here 5+ months waiting for answers. Of course, we're not going to get the answers. I mean, we already knew that. We knew that months ago. So we're here and we see, I don't know, a couple million different indiscrepancies, holes in their little story and stuff like that. They just can't afford it, number one. All right, that's why they're not making this go to trial. They're trying to stretch it out as long as they possibly can. Hopefully past the midterms before they do and say anything. All right, they're gonna milk this situation, and it's terrible how you can even correlate these two things. It shouldn't even make sense, but to the Democratic Party, apparently it does. They're trying to get their agenda across with the David Hogg, with the Emma Gonzalez, this and that and the other. I don't know all their names, nor do I care. Thing is, they're trying to push their midterm election thing, across for some reason. For some reason that has anything to do with this whole situation. All right, at the same time, you ain't going to get no evidence. You're going to see people stalling and stifling and this and that and basically not doing their job in any sort of way. We already understand that there's countless people involved, like say on the school board, say on the safety, people in charge of security at that school who should be absolutely fired and in fact ridiculed for the rest of their life for their incompetence. All right, we have all this, and we're sitting on top of this. You might see that we're sitting on top of this powder keg and wondering, how come it hasn't blown up yet? It's a damn powder keg. All right. The reason that I would have to suggest is that you can see not only in this situation, but in other situations, in current events right now, that what you have is a constituency of people who are trying desperately to keep the cat in the bag. You know what I'm saying? But the cat's already out of the bag. So they're trying desperately. They're holding out. They're trying to stall us for days, maybe for weeks, hopefully for months, so that we don't get all over the evidence which we already have. All right. They wanna push this can down the road and hopefully see the whole plan is like, for example, Hillary and her cohorts in the presidential election, for example. I know it's like it seems unrelated, but it is related. They didn't think they were ever going to get caught for the stuff that they were doing. And that's why they were so brazen. This is why they had so much hubris with what they were doing. This is why they made so many mistakes. They thought, well, we're just never going to get investigated. We might as well just go in willy-nilly. You know what I'm saying? Let's not think about it too hard. Let's get things done. And we're never going to be investigated. The problem is, yeah, you are going to get investigated. You already been investigated. We already got to the bottom of it. Now we're just simply letting you tie a noose around y'all's own necks. Everybody here who's guilty and implicated, please believe it's documented. All right? We're going to find out about you. In fact, we already found out about you. All right? I mean, if we believed in mob justice, your house would have been burnt down already. All right? But we have your number. That's the thing about it. They're playing this game like hopefully tomorrow never comes. Dude, tomorrow's already here. All right? Y'all been found out. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that y'all getting away with this. You understand? All right? But they're going to try their darndest. And not only that, like I said, it's an animal with this back in the corner, back towards the wall. All right? They know that they made countless mistakes. They know this, all right? And so they're going to try and get away with it the only way that they know how, by distracting and hiding all sort of stuff. Guess what? Game's over. You lost the game. You lost the game with y'all's narcissism, with y'all's murderous, disgusting ways, all right? And we're on to you, and we're right behind you. We're on your heels. You can hear us. You can feel us breathing down the back of your neck at this point, right? Isn't that right? All right. It's July the 26th, y'all. And I appreciate all y'all out here. We ain't going to take no for an answer. We ain't going to take silly answers for an answer. It's July the 5th, 2018, 26. And I'll holler at y'all a little bit later.